Hello. So today we are going to talk about friends or foes. And with the hi cat, there's a cat. And with this, there are several things I'd like to discuss. And the main point is toxic friendships. Hi. Yes, hi. Yeah, hi. And so with that, there are some scenarios that I find, and the first one I like to call 1 plus 1 friend does not equal 3 friends. And that means if we have, this is J, hi cat, this is M, and this is C. Now, J and C, they're friends. C does not like M, however, and J and M, they're friends. And what J is saying is that C has to be friends with M for them two to be friends. And this is not healthy. You do not have to be friends with someone you do not like to maintain a relationship or a friendship or anything. Because that person can be draining to you. And if Jay keeps on saying, hey, you need to be friends with them because then we can't be friends and it makes things awkward. I don't like being the middle friend. Well, then C is going to say, well, then you can be friends with them, but I'm not going to be friends with you if you keep pressuring me to hang out with someone I don't like. Because, and you don't have to explain yourself of why you don't want to be friends with this one person, but some examples maybe they hurt your feelings. They're derogatory towards you. They do things you don't agree with. Like, not like eating chocolate ice cream. You could not like someone for eating chocolate ice cream because you're allergic to chocolate. But like, they could be doing illegal things or things that you do not agree with. So you're just not friends with them. You don't speak bad on them. You're just not friends with them. And now in this situation, there is P. Now P here is friends with M, J, and C. But what P here sees is that, oh, M and C don't get along. So I'm going to be friends with both, but I'm going to do it at a healthy distance between them two. Now P is in a really hard place right now because being friends with both is a lot of work. But you don't always have to choose one friend or the other. You just have to manage. And if that is too much pressure on you, that is okay to say that. Communicate. Being like, hey, I can't be the middle friend between y'all two. And you don't have to disfriend anyone. You can just say, I'm not gonna pick a side because it's not what I do. Like, you don't have to pick a side as in, oh, I'm only gonna be friends with M and not C. You could be like, I'm gonna be friends with both of y'all, but I'm going to not talk bad about M when I'm with C, and I'm not going to talk bad about C when I'm with M. I'm going to be a middle, and I'm not going to be fighting tug of war between them. I'm going to be like, okay, I can hang out with you, and I can hang out with you. I just can't hang out with y'all together. That's a lot to shuffle about. And most people, it's not just, oh, well, I don't have two people that don't like each other that I'm friends with. Most people do. And it's very common. But that is my first scenario. So we're just gonna wipe the slate clean. And then the next one is my favorite. It's called the Lift Up, Never Let Down. And that is, we're gonna pick new names. And we're gonna have this. Now, Jay here, actually no, we're gonna rename them. Molly. Molly here is not a fan of how Max and Lily are treating her. See, Molly is very upset because Max keeps on saying mean things about Molly. And he could mean them jokingly or realistically. But that does not mean that he is nice when he says it. Because yes, there is freedom of speech, but there is also freedom of movement. You can distance yourself from people who are negative to you. And another version of this, because this could just be like, Max is just being mean to Molly, just really insulting, just not being nice. So he's out of the picture. But I forgot what I named her. Janice, we're gonna call her Janice. Janice is trying to be friends with Molly, but Janice disregards Molly's boundaries. I use one of my own examples. Let's say Molly is a vegetarian. Okay, Molly just likes vegetarian food. She doesn't like to eat meat, fish, none of that. Well, Janice is mad because, hey, no, we should eat what I want to eat because it creates a good memory with me. And so her intentions are great because, yes, good memory, within her mind, good food. Molly does not want to eat what Janice wants to eat. So Molly says, no, I'm a vegetarian. I don't want to eat that. And see, Janice, in my experience, it was, well, that's what animals were created for, so you can eat them. She's like, no, that's your belief. I believe this. And what Janice can do is say passive aggressive. And that's another big thing that is very troublesome. Passive aggressive. It could be like, oh, well, I'm just because you're overreacting, I'm just going to drop it then. She's accusing Molly of being overdramatic, but then dropping the subject, which is not great because it's like, oh, I'm being passive, oh, I dropped the subject instead of continuing the argument. No, you made it worse because you called her overdramatic. And so Janice can also be like, and another thing for the one-on-one friend is let's say Max and Molly are still not friends because Max is mean. And they just have issues. That's fine because they don't talk. And Molly has set good boundaries, healthy, very valid boundaries of I do not want to come into any form of contact with Max. And Janice is just like, oh, but Max is my friend and he wants to give this to you because he means to say sorry. And what Molly can say is many things. In my personal opinion, I feel like if Molly has set that boundary and has said it to both of them, hey, I don't want to be in any contact with Max, then they should respect that. Even if it's a kind act of gift giving, that could cause a lot of stress towards Molly. And so, both, because there is no negative effects of distancing yourself from someone like this. It is not Molly's responsibility to put up with Max to make Janice happy. It is not Molly's responsibility to be friends with Max to make Janice happy. Yes, Molly cares about Janice's mental health and about the stress it can to be an in-between friend. But it is not Molly's job to reconnect with someone she does not like for reasons just because Janice wants them to be. That is not Janice's place to be there. And there could be an argument Max asked me to give that gift to you as a peace offering. And what Molly can say is that is yes, they made a peace offering. Molly does not have to say that was a kind gesture because to her it wasn't. It was, in intention, it might have been. But to Molly, that is reopening old wounds that do not need to be affected. They're still healing. And so what Molly can say is, I appreciate, she doesn't have to say appreciate, but I understand that was your goal, but I want no contact with Max. And what Janice might say is, well, technically you didn't get contact, it was just a gift. That is passive aggressive. Because the main point that Molly is trying to put is that she does not want anything to do with Max, which is what she has said to Janice beforehand. And so Janice is going to be like, hey, words are hard, but it's like, Max asked me to give that to you, and I was just being a good friend by requesting that. Technically, she is being a good friend by helping someone, because to Max, that is helping someone, but to Molly, it's making things worse. So the little, like, oh yes, I'm helping because I am assisting a friend, but then when she gives it to Molly, it is not helping. And so Molly would say, that is not your place. And that is not Molly being rude. That is saying it is not Janice's job to try to reconnect them if Molly has said very clearly she does not want to connect with them. Okay? So remember that. And another genuine thing to remember is, let's say Max and Molly are here. We're going to stick with the names. So Max, could be a background reason, but Max has done something to Molly. And Molly does not want that to happen again. So she's going to distance herself from Max. And Max could not even realize he did it, but he did. And so when Janice wants them to be friends again, Molly has a valid reason not to go around Max. And it doesn't have to be something dramatic. It could just be like she genuinely does not want to be around Max, which is okay. Like, as long as she does not speak ill of them for reasons that, like, let's say Max is a bad person, like, not bad person, that he has done bad things, then Molly can say, yes, he has done bad things, so I don't want to be around him. Name-calling does not have to be involved, but it's not good to do it. Because I personally do this in my situation of a person I don't like to be around, is I talk bad about them, and I've been working on that to not do it. But I try my hardest there. So bad talking does not have to happen, but let's say Molly does it anyway. Just like, no, Max is, we're going to say idiot for this. Well, Janice is just like, no, he's my friend, he's not an idiot. And Molly's just like, yes, he is an idiot to me. That's because he was being rude to Molly. And so what needs to happen is Max does not have to come into contact with Molly, but there needs to be a discussion of boundaries between them, being like, I don't want to talk to Max because he hurt me, or he did something that I don't like, and that is okay for Molly to say. And Janice could be like, I understand that he did that, but I'm still going to be his friend. And that hurts Molly's feelings. But that is valid. Just because Molly doesn't like Janice's friend, does not mean Janice has to not be friends. Now, in another example, we're going to wipe the slate clean here. We are going to find more of my little dudes. There is Rufus and Tommy. Now, and there can be Juniper. Now, Juniper is friends with both Rufus and Tommy. But let's say Rufus does something bad, like genuinely proven to be bad. Let's say he robs a place that he doesn't need to rob, or he hits Tommy, that when Tommy didn't do anything, it wasn't self-defense, it was just generally he hits him, so he was hit. And so it hurts Tommy's feelings that Juniper still wants to stay friends with Rufus when Rufus has done something bad. And it sucks. And we're not going to criticize Juniper here, because that is her choice to make to stay friends with them. We're going to focus, excuse me, little buds, on Tommy. Now, Tommy has to think here. Does he want to be associated with Rufus again? Because that might mean distancing himself from Juniper, which is not, he's not trying to be mean to Juniper, he just doesn't want to be around Rufus, which is okay. And so sometimes he knows he cannot control how Juniper acts. He knows he can't, because you can only control you. And so he has to distance himself and set boundaries. Boundaries are very important. Communication, like, hey, because you hang out with Rufus, I'm going to distance myself from you because I don't want to be around Rufus. So, yeah. That's what we've learned. And you know what's a very important thing, that's a reoccurring theme in all of these, is if that's so much stress on Tommy, then he needs to get, no, my setup. There we go. He needs to get a therapist so that they can discuss and, heal. So yeah, that's it for now. I love y'all. You're doing great.